Well, the Seattle Seahawks are coming off their first loss of the season, a 42-29 defeat on Monday Night Football on the road to the Detroit Lions. There was a lot of interesting things to take out of that game and a lot of interesting things to apply to next week's opponent, the New York Giants, this Sunday at Lumen Field. Everybody, welcome back. Great to have you back here with Seahawk Boys, another edition of Seahawk Boys TV, the Week 5 edition. I'm Seahawk Boy Mike Barra back with you again to talk about all things Seahawks and to hopefully provide some common sense insight for a change. Well, the Seahawks lost their first game of the season this year, 42-29 to the Detroit Lions. Let's get over here. Let's start a little highlight. Relay. Yeah. Let's get started over here. And it was, not an unexpected situation, to be really honest. I mean, everybody kind of knew coming into it that the Seahawks were going to struggle. They weren't going to have the easiest time of it on the road against the Lions, who are a very good football team. And why are my highlights not showing? Maybe we should just make them the max, make me the mini. Can we do it that way? Will it work? God, the vagaries of Restream software are really quite irritating. And it just goes blank. Great. Okay, well, we're not going to run any replays. And I'm using two different browsers. Apparently, this is a problem. So we'll drop that and just go with this. So anyway, the game was interesting from perspective. We all knew, given that they had three defensive starters out on the defensive line, that the Lions were going to be able to run. Lions are going to be able to pass a little bit. And then it turned out that they were able to actually pass quite a lot, because the reality is that the Lions, I mean, you really can't say anything more about Jared Goff than you could just look at his stat line. And look, the bottom line is the guy was perfect. He was 18 for 18 for 292 yards, a 16.2 average, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 155.8 rating. That is almost perfect. And that really, guys, really is phenomenal. It really is. We want to flip these over here like that. Really phenomenal performance by Jared Goff. I just have to say, hats off to him. I was kind of hoping he might be a guy the Seahawks could trade for once they traded away Russell Wilson. They didn't do anything about that. I wanted them to pick up Baker Mayfield twice when he was available. They didn't do that. They stuck with Geno. And, interestingly, again, I keep hearing about how awesome Geno Smith was in this game. And he was pretty good. He was 38 for 56, 395 yards. But again, some key things to look at here. Only a 7.1 yard average, only 7.1. That's less than half of what Jared Goff threw for. And, again, a lot of Geno's yards were yards after the catch. We're going to look at the passing chart in a minute. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, only an 86.5 quarterback rating. Again, Ken Walker had 80 yards. Geno himself ran for 38. Zach Charbonnet had 2 carries for 15, 133 yards rushing. Not an entirely bad game from the Seahawks from an offensive standpoint. DK Metcalf had 12 targets. He had 7 receptions, 114 yards, almost a 15-yard average, no touchdowns. Although there was one play that I think should have been called a touchdown that they called back and said he was at like the 1-inch line. And A.J. Barner had a couple of catches, made a couple of plays. Noah Fant continued to be basically useless. 2 targets. Why is this guy taking up $8 million in salary cap on this team? I mean, you could find a guy off the street that can put up those kinds of numbers. So, again, we just don't really know what the hell's going on there. DK lost a critical fumble. That was a bad turnover that hurt the Seahawks. And the bottom line is that defensively, they just couldn't stop the Lions when they needed to. The Lions scored on almost every drive. Sam Laporta didn't kill him. Amon-Ra St. Brown was very effective. He also threw for a touchdown to Jared Goff. Terrible breakdown on defense on the Seahawks on that particular touchdown play. And it was just really miserable in terms of defensive performance. And the thing is, they had, the other thing too is we're supposed to have a pretty good secondary. And I keep hearing, oh man, Devon Witherspoon, he's such a stud. He's going to be an all-pro. Devon Witherspoon was shit last week. Yeah, he got burned numerous times. And for anybody trying to claim that this guy is some sort of superstar, no, he's not. They spent the fifth pick in the draft on a corner, a nickel corner. It's bad enough you spend it on a corner, but to spend it on a nickel corner who isn't a game changer, that's a bad pick. And again, I cannot get over the fawning over John Schneider and these guys. They really haven't done a very good job putting this roster together. It's an okay roster. They're 3-1. That counts in the NFL. I think they win this weekend and go to 4-1. But after that, the schedule gets tough. We're going to be playing the 49ers on a Thursday. That's 3 games in about 14 days. I don't see any way the Seahawks win that game. And then the following week, even after a 10-day rest, they're on the road in Atlanta against the Falcons team that looks really good. Last night, they were able to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And frankly, the way our defense is playing, I don't see how we're going to stop Kirk Cousins and the Falcons offense. I think it's going to be a game similar to the Detroit Lions game. I expect that to be a loss. So I think the Seahawks will start 4-1 exactly as I predicted, but will end up being 4-3 going into the midweek, the 8th week of the season. But that, we shall see. There's still a chance to improve. There's still a chance to get guys back. And again, I cautioned you. Everybody was so excited. Oh, we got Byron Murphy. That I cautioned you that even if Byron Murphy was a great player, that 3 technique, 34 defensive ends, which is what he is, are not game changers. They're not impact players. And even if he was healthy, I don't think he'd be making much of an impact. He's a good player. He's a good player. He's going to be a good player in the future, but he's not. T'Vondre Sweat might have been a better bargain in the 2nd or 3rd round than Kenneth Walker was, Byron Murphy was in the 1st round. And again, we seem to have this struggle at quarterback in spite of the fact that good numbers are being put up. So let's slide over here and take a look at some stuff. Geno, again, 395 yards. That's great, but only a 7.1 yard average. When you look at his actual passing chart, where did I put the passing chart? Where is it? Geno Smith, NFL. Yeah, here's Geno's passing chart. When you look at Geno's passing chart, this is not the passing chart of an elite quarterback. This is, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of his completions were at or behind the line of scrimmage. That's not especially great. Most of the rest of his passes were less than 10 yards or between 10 and 15 yards. He had 3 completions and an interception over 20 yards. So he did try to push the ball downfield a little bit more. But again, the reality is we keep getting all this stuff about how Geno's elite because he puts up these yards and he puts up a high completion percentage. But again, yards and completions do not win football games. Touchdowns do. And he had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He's 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year. You can say, well, maybe he should have had 1 or 2 more that should have been called touchdowns. They ended up being 1-yard runs. Fair enough. But again, I do not see from Geno the kinds of things that I think we need to see in a championship quarterback. Now, having said that, he made 1 great play where he was under pressure, spun out of the pressure, turned around, and fired a dime downfield. And again, this is just the flash that Geno Smith flashes. This is just what he does once in a while to tease you and make you think that he's something special. When in reality, when the game's on the line, when the pressure is there, he really doesn't deliver. Now, another thing that affected this game rather dramatically was the officiating. There were some bizarre calls. Tyler Lockett was called for offensive pass interference on a play where he was simply running a route and the defensive player just crashed into him. That's not offensive pass interference. And again, you have to say to yourself, was this a fair call against him? And the answer is, I think, absolutely no, it wasn't fair in any way, shape, or form, because the referee, believe it or not, the referee actually didn't call that. He didn't call that play until after he saw that Jackson Smith-Njigba got a first down, and then he threw his flag. So again, this makes you think, I don't know. It makes you think that there's some shenanigans going on here, even more shenanigans. The DK Metcalf pass interference call in the end zone. He gets completely mugged from behind way before the ball gets there, a second or two before the ball gets there. Couldn't be more obvious defensive pass interference not called. I guarantee you 100% the Kansas City Chiefs get that call every single time, but not DK and not the Seahawks. So that was a problem. And then the other thing that was bizarre was the safety call, where they called the safety for the Seahawks on Jared Goff, but it actually ended up benefiting the Lions, because instead, with a 10 or 12 point lead, instead of punting out of their own end zone and being lucky to get it past the 50, yeah, they gave up 2 points to drop it, I think, to an 11-point or a 9-point lead at that time. Still a 2-possession game, or 3-possession if you count an extra point, a 2-point conversion as a score. It was a 3-possession game. And they got to kick off from the 20 and got the ball much deeper and pinned the Seahawks much farther back. So again, this was a call that I think favored the Lions, and it was inexplicable because Goff clearly had the ball out of the end zone. Let's actually see if we can get some Seahawks Lions highlights up here. So again, I don't understand that call. I don't understand at all what the referee was thinking. The only way you can say it was fair is if they were trying to help the Lions. That's the only way that I think you can say it was fair. So, would they really do that? Do they really do that? Yeah, I think they do. I think that games sometimes are dictated more by the officials than they are by the players. And that is something that is increasingly happening in the NFL. I really think it is a problem. We saw it also in the Cleveland Browns game when the Browns scored the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, and it was taken away on an invisible, not a phantom, an invisible holding call. Here's DK's fumble. Again, he's got to be smarter than that. He's got to get down on the ground and not try to get what good is one extra yard? He's already made the first down. He ends up turning the ball over, and that becomes a critical mistake. So they're not playing very smart. And then Mike McDonald, after they scored a touchdown to get within 8 points, Mike McDonald goes for 2 in the third quarter instead of simply taking the extra point. And Jason Myers, he has his problems, but that was ridiculous. Again, analytics is the death of common sense. Use your fucking brain. If you have a chance to go down only one score, 7 points late in the third quarter, you fucking take it. Because when you miss the extra point, the 2-point conversion, which only has about a 48% chance of succeeding, you put your team in a hole from a momentum and emotional standpoint, because now they have to cross the goal line twice. That's 2 scores. People act like a 2-point conversion is automatic. It's not. It's a score as well. It's a touchdown, and consider it a fourth and goal from the 2 play. So again, this just shows a tin ear on Mike McDonald's part for the flow of the game. Just because this stupid analytics book made up by some geek who probably never played football says go for 2 here, you don't fucking do it. You have to have a feel for the game, and right now Mike McDonald has no feel for the game. It's as bad as Pete Carroll's was. Pete would always go for 2 when he shouldn't, and he would always kick the field goal when he shouldn't. So he did everything wrong. There's a nice throw by Geno. That's his only touchdown. I think it's AJ Barner that scores it. Yeah, good job there on that one. Barner finally making a few plays. And again, Barner seems to be able to do anything Noah Fant does. Why is Noah Fant even on this football team? Just to justify the Russell Wilson trade? And if you look at it, we really haven't gotten that much out of the Russell Wilson trade. Everybody talks about, oh, it was the greatest. Brock Heward said it was the greatest trade in Seahawks history. No, it's not. You got a bunch of average starters, including Devon Witherspoon, who, by the way, seems to have regressed this year. Again, if Jared Goff is perfect, 18 for 18, Kirk Cousins is going to devastate the Seahawks defense. We got to get these guys back healthy. Now, the good news is that there are some of the players on a defensive line are practicing this week, but I don't think they're going to be playing in the game. I think they're going to be held out one more week to get them healthy. This is the Jared Goff touchdown, and again, complete breakdown on the Seahawks defense. Just totally fooled on that play, and Mike McDonald's got to do better on that. So what happens this weekend? Well, the Giants come into town. The Giants actually played pretty well last week. They came through with I think a relatively close defeat. Daniel Jones, this is just some interesting stats on Daniel Jones. If you look at it, I got my friend Jim Mitchell. He gave me some interesting bits. Daniel Jones, let's see if we can find Jim here on my phone. Yeah, Daniel Jones is 9-4-1 straight up after a loss, and he's 18-9 against the spread as a road dog. So the Giants are both a road dog and coming off of a loss. So I don't think this is going to be an easy game. I think it's going to be a win for the Seahawks. I expect them to come through, but I do think it's going to be tough. And remember, there's an old adage, win on Monday, lose on Sunday, because the short week takes a little bit out of you. The Seahawks, however, if they were on the road, I'd say they were going to lose this game. The reality is they're at home. They should be able to hang on and make enough plays to beat the New York Giants. But you have to be careful. You have to be concerned. And they got to get some defensive linemen healthy. But honestly, would it have made that much of a difference in this Lions game? I'm not sure, because we don't really know how good this defense is. We don't know how good it is when all of its pieces are together, because they've played three really, really bad offenses. The first good offense they faced, they gave up 42 points and could have probably given up more. But again, with the officiating being as bad as it was, the reality is the Seahawks should have, if this game was properly officiated, been in a position to tie or win the game on the last possession, the last time they had the ball. They were literally close enough. So that says something about the team's resilience, not resiliency. There's no such word as resiliency. It's a made-up word. It's resilience. They should have been able to have a chance to win the game at the end. Now, would we have done it? Probably not. Would we have deserved it? Probably not. Again, that wasn't the best choice by Geno there on the interception. But again, those things are going to happen when you have to make a play late in the game. It's just the way these things are. So what's going to happen? How do we see things going forward in the future? From my perspective, I think the Seahawks are definitely going to, let me close this sucker out here. I think the Seahawks are going to win this weekend, but it's going to be a tighter game than we expect. I think something like 19-13, because the Giants have a pretty decent defense. And I do think that then on the road against Atlanta, it's going to be difficult. So I don't know. As I look at it, I want to be optimistic, but I'm just not. And a lot of that has to do with the quarterback. We can always hope that Geno plays really well. Again, that he gets back to his old form. The one play he made where he spun out and threw the ball downfield, that was amazing. But Geno can't do that all the time and doesn't do that all the time. And to expect him to do that is just not going to happen. If you are counting on Geno Smith to pick the team up on his shoulders the way Russell Wilson used to and carry us to victory, it ain't going to happen. The rest of the squad has to be built very solidly around him. So I think this is a win for the Seahawks. I think that the fatigue factor is going to be a problem, having played on Monday and not having the extra day of rest and not getting as many of their defensive starters back. But I do think they come through with a solid win. So, all right, that's pretty much the update. That's what I got. Stop pretending like Geno's elite. He's not elite. I will see you guys next week. Be sure to follow me on X, Seahawk Boy Mike, on Twitter X, and I will try to live tweet as much as I can during the game. It's hard to live tweet and watch the game because the plays come so fast. But I will see you guys on Sunday on Twitter. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Oh, by the way, one last thing. I am so tired of this narrative. Rob Staten was pushing it again. Oh, Geno was fantastic and the offensive line is terrible. The offensive line is not terrible. Go back and watch those replays. Geno had time to throw the ball. He had time to look downfield and get the ball to guys that were open. And again, we ran for over 100 yards again. This offensive line is not terrible. Stop making that excuse for Geno. He has to be better. The whole team has to be better if we're going to contend. That's the bottom line. See you guys next week.